Up next is Triniti Armstrong, a Ph.D. student in robotics. Triniti is studying how to use robots to nudge. Please welcome Triniti.
Thanks, Eric. Hi, everyone. And as Eric said, I'm Triniti. Now, what do I mean when I say I'm using robots to nudge? I'm not using them to nudge you physically. I'm using them to nudge you behaviorally. So in other words, we're pushing you to subconsciously make a certain decision. Now, nudging is used in a wide variety of fields. So places like e-commerce, social media, and advertising. A good example of this would be in your food delivery apps. So think of DoorDash or Uber Eats. As you scroll through the restaurants, you might see something under one of the restaurant titles that says 90% of people like this. Or you might see a particularly bolded 4.5 out of 5 stars. That's the app trying to nudge you to pick that restaurant over the others. And that's what I mean when I say nudging. But where do robots come into this? So a while back, a professor in occupational health approached my advisor and I. He wants to increase safety in highly challenging occupational settings. So settings like construction, commercial fishing, and wildfire fighting. He wants to collaborate with us to make a robot that can be used to help prevent exhaustion and injuries in these settings. So my professor is interested in human-robot interaction, and she introduced me to the concept of robot-mediated nudging. And that's just when you use robots to nudge. From here, we decided to focus on the problem of exhaustion. To do this, we wanted to make a robot that could be used to nudge people to go to bed at better times or to just make better sleep decisions in general. Now, we didn't want to make a robot that was just a glorified alarm clock that said it's time to go to bed. We wanted to do something different. We wanted to design a robot that would appeal to people, tug at their heartstrings, and make them feel or say, I don't want to make my robot sad or disappoint my robot. So we came up with the concept, a doggy, a robot pet. So this is just a very low fidelity prototype at the moment, which basically just means that we're really early in the design process. But this is what we plan for it to do. Our dog will be on your nightstand and will track your sleep as you sleep, tracking things like your movement, making sure that you're sleeping soundly. And then when you wake up, it will give you a very brief report about your sleep quality. So it'll say like your sleep quality was good, okay, or poor. And then based on your previous night's sleep quality, the doggy will nudge you to try to go to bed at a better time. So for example, if you had poor sleep quality the night before, your doggy might start to whine and beg and ask you to come to bed just a bit earlier than you did the night before to try and make up for all of that poor sleep that you had the night before. So how do we plan to monitor this? We're gonna use a smartwatch, so something like a Fitbit or an Apple Watch, and we'll just modify it to be able to talk to the dog. How do we plan to test the effectiveness of our robot? We're gonna run a study, a 4-week-long study. So during the span of this 4 weeks, we'll monitor participants' sleep habits and sleep quality. And for 2 weeks of the study, the participants will have access to the robot. And for the other 2 weeks, the participants will not use the robot. And we'll just use that as something called a control or a baseline to compare the robot to. So next steps. We want to finish our prototyping for the robot. We want to modify our smartwatch. And finally, we want to start recruiting participants for our study. So for this particular study, we'll actually be using something called a convenience population, which is just a population of people that are easier to get a hold of than the workers in those highly challenging occupational settings that I mentioned before. So we'll be recruiting here at OSU. And OSU is a really good place to recruit for participants for this because I'm sure a lot of you don't have the best sleep habits. So, stepping back, what's our question? Can we use robots to nudge people to make better sleep decisions? I think our doggy can help, but we'll see. Thank you.